Welcome to the American English webinar series brought to you by the American English team here in Washington, D.C. We're so excited to see so many teachers from so many different countries all around the world. So thank you for joining us. My name is Jenny, part of the American English team, also known as Moderator Jenny. And you'll see my friends, Moderator Katie and Moderator Amy, in the chat box to help you today. So, how many of you have participated in one of our webinars from a previous course? Raise your hand. So many of you. So you might notice that we have a couple of changes. The first is that we have a new name. So we used to be called Shaping the Way We Teach English, and now we are the American English Webinar Series. But don't worry, you can still expect the same great sessions or maybe even better. Another change is that now the webinars will be 60 minutes long. So in previous courses, they were 90 minutes, and now they will be 60. And finally, what's most exciting about our new American English webinar series is that each webinar, each month will have a topic, and all of the webinars will be related to that topic. And you can also find this theme on the American English website in the Teacher's Corner. So in addition to the webinar, you'll find resources, lesson plans, and much more related to this topic on American English. So here you can see the schedule for this series. And so after today, our next webinar will be on September 23rd, and that will be on podcasting in the classroom. As most of you already know, during these webinars, you will hear but not see the presenter. And the way for you to participate, as you're already doing, is by asking questions or making comments related to today's topic in the chat box. Also, your presenter may ask you questions in the form of polls. So you'll see these on the screen for you to answer. They'll usually be multiple choice. And if you experience any technical difficulties, we cannot solve individual issues, but if there is a global technical problem, we will let you know. But if you don't have sound, a great way to follow along is by using the Caption Pod. Each webinar series consists of 6 webinars, and during the series, the webinars take place every other Wednesday. If you attend at least 4 out of 6 of the webinars, you will receive an e-certificate from your regional English language officer or local U.S. embassy. To ensure that you are eligible to receive the certificate, we will ask you to submit your attendance at the very end of the webinar. So you must stay until the end, and we will provide instructions on how to submit your attendance. And we hope that many of you are already familiar with our Ning site, but if you haven't registered to join this site, please do so. Here you can find resources and discussion questions related to each webinar. After, you'll find the recording of the webinars as well as the PowerPoint. And this is also where you can ask the presenter additional questions after today's session is over. If you visited the site before, you may notice that it looks different, but don't worry, all of the content is still there. It just has a new name and a new look. So for today's session, social media as a tool for community engagement, connecting your classroom locally and globally. Some of the greatest minds in education have challenged us to look beyond the framework of our current English language classrooms to prepare our students for the future by deepening our teaching to include 21st century skills. But how do we teach all these skills while meeting other demands? In this webinar, our presenter will show us how to connect community service and social media in our classrooms and develop a project-based approach to engage with students' local community. Our presenter today is Eve Smith, who is currently a consultant in English language programming and writing center development. She was a former English language fellow in Ukraine, Georgia, China, and Russia. And Eve also worked as a senior instructor with the English Language Center at the University of Macau. Eve enjoys scuba diving and painting in her free time. Welcome, Eve. We're so excited for today's topic.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Jenny. Welcome to American English Webinar 1.1. I'm Eve, and I'm really excited to be with you today for this webinar. A special shout out to those of you joining for the first time. Woohoo! Hope you enjoy it, and let us know your feedback in the discussion section of the link. During our webinar today, I'm going to discuss a project you might do with your students and talk a lot about social media. Don't worry if all of this is new to you. Just focus on one social media tool you can take and learn to use at home. We're also going to be creating a poster together later on in the session. My goal is to introduce you to possibilities of what you can do with students. Today's webinar is entitled Social Media as a Tool for Community Engagement, Connecting Your Classroom Locally and Globally. Before we start, however, I want to practice something with you. When I say hands up or raise your hand, I want you all to push the button of the little guy at the top of the screen who looks like he's waving. Okay, wait, don't start yet. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, raise your hands. Fantastic. Okay, now in order to put your hands down, you have to push the button again. So when I say put your hands down, everybody push the button. So 1, 2, 3, put your hands down. Okay, keep putting them down. Keep putting them down. We still have quite a few people with their hands up. Just press the button again, and that should put the hands down. Okay, you're getting the hang of this. So one more time. Everybody, hands up. Fantastic. Everybody, hands down. Okay, well done. All right, let's keep going. So, let's take a quick moment to look at our pre-webinar poll results. It looks like 75% of you are involved in community service, and about 60% of your students are involved in community service. That is fantastic. Well done. But there's always room for growth, isn't there? In this webinar, we are going to explore how we can be even more involved in community service and at the same time teach our students to use social media. It's like a 2-for-1 sale. Yay! First, let's start with community. According to researcher and professor of psychology, Dr. Brene Brown, we are, as human beings, wired to connect with others. In her words, connection is why we are here. And it is this connection that gives us a sense of purpose and meaning. A major portion of connection is through language. This is one of the reasons that using a project in the classroom is ideal. It's win-win. First, the projects are engaging and fun. We are giving the students the skills they will need to prosper in life, or at the very least, develop curiosity and lifelong learning habits. Second, students learn content and language that will help them connect with others in a meaningful way. It doesn't get any better than this. Community service projects have a place in the ESL classroom, and today I will give you some ideas on how you can integrate both social media and community service in your teaching, and we will also practice some of the activities that you can do with your students, such as creating posters. With that in mind, let's talk about what the goals of the webinar are. First, I, the presenter, will outline a project-based approach to engage students with their community while teaching language, grammar, and vocabulary. Second, I, the presenter, will connect community service and social media with developing the 21st century skills of fill in the blank. So if you have a piece of paper, it would be a great time to write some ideas that you have for what you think 21st century skills are. I'm going to give you a little hint before we do this though. The 21st century skills are recommended by the U.S. Department of Education as necessary for students to thrive once they leave school in the future. When you think of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a blog, etc., think about what students will have to successfully do in order to participate and grow as contributors in an online community. So what skills do you think they will need to develop in order to be able to work online? So just take a moment and fill in the blank. Yeah, leadership, innovation, blogging, why not? Those are great. Absolutely, I love the critical thinking and computer skills. So, if you fill in the blank with some of the words from the pre-webinar poll, you are totally brilliant. Yay! Or at least you identified one of the most basic teaching techniques in the book, right? Familiarizing students with content as a warm-up. Do you recognize any of these words? Flexibility, leadership, creative, and critical thinking. These were all words that you were pulled on when you first came into the lobby area for the webinar. So about 80% of you agreed that creative and critical thinking are important as 21st century skills, and they're important to teach our students. But we didn't have a lot of people believing that entrepreneurship is important or flexibility. These are actually, all of these skills are actually important for us to develop with our students. Let's just take one little look at the word entrepreneurship. It looks like a big word to me. Let's break it down. Basically, entrepreneurship means to create business opportunities. So all of these skills are things that we want to develop with our students and are developed through the type of project-based learning I'm going to talk about today with you. What to expect. First, our background we've already started. I'm going to explore the rationale or reasons that I focused on teaching using social media projects in the way that I have. Throughout this webinar, I'm going to refer to two people I really respect, Sir Ken Robinson and Dr. Don Topscott. I've listed a ton of informational TED Talk on the resource page of our NING to develop your knowledge and understanding of the background information I'm presenting. For some of you avid TEDers, this is an opportunity to revisit some of the talks you may have already seen. The next thing we're going to talk about is the project. We'll go briefly through the basics of project-based learning, and then I'll give you a sample idea for a social media campaign and some steps to follow with students in the classroom. We will also do a brainstorm and a poster, one of the stages of the project together, so you will know what it feels like when you try to do it in the classroom. All the resources, again, are downloadable on the name. And finally, we have the summary. So we'll review whether or not we've achieved our goals for this webinar and share a little further information and resources. Like all beautiful things, we've got to start with a little background information. True or false? Human communities depend upon a diversity of talents, not just one type of ability or idea about ability. What are your thoughts? Go ahead and vote. Fantastic. Let's go back to our slideshow. Looks like 99% of you voted true, and that is, dun, 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 correct. Human communities depend on a variety of talents. Oh, what's going on with my slides? Sorry. Not just one type of ability or idea about ability. As a community, we need all types of thinking, all types of minds, because this helps us to problem solve and have a diversity of ideas and opinions that hold us together. For example, we need people who are good at math, people who are good at art, people who are logical thinkers, and people who are abstract thinkers. We need all different types of thinking in society. Together, we complement each other and create a rich and vibrant society. I agree, using our abilities makes us more skillful. So let's look a little bit deeper at intelligences, because abstract thinkers, logical thinkers, concrete thinkers, these are all different types of intelligence. The definition of intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Intelligence needs to be interactive and diverse. Basically, you have to be able to use both sides of your brain. Think in different ways, or think in different ways. We can teach diverse thinking through English by including arts and other activities that use both sides of the brain. Currently, we are building students who all think in the same way and do exactly the same thing. This isn't going to help us in the future because we don't know what the future is going to look like. Previously, we knew, more or less, what our world was going to be like. We were all going to have a specific type of job. Either we were a banker, a lawyer, a factory worker, a store clerk, etc. With technology moving and changing at the rate that it has been, we have no idea what the future holds. Today is very, very different than it was at the beginning of the 20th century. This is pretty exciting. As Sir Ken Robinson says in his 2010 TED Talk, we have to widen our understanding of ability and intelligence. We no longer need everyone to think in exactly the same way. We don't need standardized people. We need diversity of thoughts and experiences. That's why creativity is important. Let's take a minute to look at your own areas of creativity, and let's take another poll. How many of you dance? How many of you paint? How many of you draw, write, take photos, do ceramics, cook, decorate, or other? If you tick the other category, please make sure to write what that other is in our chat box. Wow, it's so great to see that so many of you are active in a very creative way. If you didn't mark that you are creative or you don't feel creative, there's never a bad time to start. We all have the capacity for creativity. Take me, for example. I began to paint in 2012 after thinking for many, many years, it's impossible. I'm not an artist. I can't paint, blah, blah, blah. But what you'll see is that painting on the right side of your screen, I did that this summer in July after studying painting since 2012. So if I can do it, I know that you can do it. So just identify where you want to be creative. Fabulous. I see so many of you are interested in taking photos, almost 70%, and writing at almost 60%, and dancing. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's go ahead. Ooh, cooking is in there too at almost 62%. Let's go ahead and go back to our regular view. Thank you. And let's look at, now that we know that we are all very, very creative, I want you to think about how you can integrate this creativity with your English lessons in the classroom. Find a way to integrate pottery, or if many of you were in decorative, you checked decoration, painting, drawing, cooking, whatever your talent, wherever your creative force is, find a way to bring that into the classroom. Our students will benefit from learning many different ways to think. And this will help them with our new learning. According to Dr. Don Topscott in his 2012 TED Talk, social media is the new means of production. This is important because it will eventually be replacing the typical stores that we go to, the typical factories that we go to, things like that. Social media will be the way that we produce. If this is a new means of production, and we are no longer training our students to work in a standardized way, our job as teachers is to prepare students to engage in social media and become familiar with social media. This will develop the skills that they need in the future once they leave school. The second bullet point, education needs to feed the spirit. What does it mean to feed the spirit? Feeding the spirit means engaging in education and activities that make us feel in the zone. It also means we feel that we've done something good for the community and for ourselves. You might be wondering what in the zone means. Doing something in the zone means that we are working on something or doing an activity where we lose track of time, we lose track of our ego, and we feel full of energy and really, really good. Raise your hand if you have ever had an experience when you were doing something where you looked up at the clock and said, whoa, it's been an hour since I started, but it only felt like 2 minutes. You, all of those of you who raised your hand, you were in the zone. Fantastic. Go ahead and put your hand down. Education can be this way. English classes can be this way. How powerful would it be if our students woke up every morning happy to go to school, engaged and excited to take part because it was interesting and it felt good? Finally, we're on our third bullet point. The world needs all kinds of different minds to work together. We've already discussed this when we talked about the different types of thinking and intelligence. Let me end this section of background information, again with Sir Ken Robinson, but this time from his TED Talk in 2006. He said, creativity is as important in education as literacy. This is why we are focusing on social media projects that use creative activities like photography and storytelling. Now, let's look at social media. Social media is a combination of virtual tools that help people to share stories, photos, videos, etc. in an online environment. Yes, anybody can be creative. Absolutely. I see you, Shan. Okay, sorry, that was an aside. Let's go ahead, and now that we know what social media is, let's take a poll. And I would love to see how many of you use Facebook, how many of you use Instagram, how many of you use Pinterest, blogging, Twitter, Flickr, Tumblr, Edmodo, or anything else. Woo, look at Facebook climbing to the top of the charts there at 82, 87, 88%. Since you are all avid Facebook users, you may want to check out the American English Facebook page, by the way, for updates on activities and things that are happening in the American English world. So 95% of you are on Facebook, 38%, 39% of you are on Instagram. We've got a lot of people on Twitter. A lot of people are using other, okay? Let's see, 30% of you are blogging, and Pinterest at 23%. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing what it is that you enjoy doing on social media and what you use. Let's go ahead and go back to the main slide. I personally would do a social media campaign on one or more of these sites. The most popular are blogs, Instagram, and Facebook. Since not everybody knows about these sites, we're going to take a look at them in a little more detail. But first, the notes for the next slides when I introduce a few of the social media sites in more detail. When you see the word computer, app, or computer and app in orange, this is what they mean. Computer, you can use the program on the computer. App, you can use this program on a mobile device. Computer and app, you can use this program on a computer and a mobile device with the same ease. So let's look at Facebook. Hands up if you use Facebook. Fabulous. Ooh, look at all those hands being raised. Fantastic. So this, as many of you know, you can use as on the computer and an app. I would do a social media campaign on Facebook with ease. As an individual, we use Facebook to keep in touch with friends. We share stories, photos, videos, and jokes. This is a place where you can show the best areas of your personality or business. The Facebook image I'm showing right now is Feronia's Frolic. You can see that they use both photos as well as videos to try to engage the viewer in travel and stories about travel. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is flogging. So put your hands down for Facebook. Don't forget to put your hands down and put your hands up if you are a blogger. Fabulous. We have quite a few bloggers in the house. So blogging can be accessed on an app, but it's really hard to write an entire piece to post on your mobile phone. It's important to have both photos and stories on a blog. According to researcher Johan Berger of the University of Pennsylvania, people react to and connect with stories. This is one of the reasons why blogging is such a big thing. Blogging is one way to encourage connection and create an online community. You can also do a video blog if you desired. Instagram. So hands up if you use Instagram. Okay, I see a couple more people raising their hands. That's fantastic. Go ahead and put all your hands down. So click the little guy again and put them all down. If you use a mobile device, Instagram is wonderful and easy to tell a story through photos using the Instagram app. You can write a small description of the photo. This program is great because it automatically links to Facebook, and every time you publish on Instagram, you can automatically publish as well on Facebook. Instagram is where it's at, which basically means it's one of the most popular sites, especially for social media campaigns. Finally, we're going to look at Pinterest. So Pinterest, you can use both on a computer as well as an app with equal ease. This is also a wonderful site like Instagram because you can focus on photos and you can make photo essays with your students. If you're interested in making photo essays with your students, I've posted some nice links in the discussion on our Ning page that you can follow and see what others have done with photo essays. So students can upload pictures and write little descriptions that show up underneath the photos. All right, so remember to put your hands down. Many of you voted for Pinterest. That's great. Go ahead and put your hands down because on the next slide, I want you to raise your hands if you use 2 or more of the social media mentioned. Great. Looks like many of you are actively using 2 or more. I'm having a little technical difficulty with my computer. There we go. Okay, next slide is actually social media campaigns. I wanted to give you a brief definition of them so we're in the same space. Basically, a social media campaign is a form of marketing that convinces people to buy or like products or ideas through social media. An example of this is a campaign, a Facebook campaign called Be a Rooney. Be a Rooney was created by a woman who was bullied when she was young. One of her classmates, a young man named Rooney, would walk her home every single day. She believes that he saved her life because he showed her that she was worthy of friendship in spite of what other children said. She now wants to empower children around the world to make sure other children are not being bullied by this social media campaign. So what she asks is that children be a roomie, which means that she is encouraging children to help others who are bullied by sitting with the kids that are being bullied at lunch, or walking them home from school, or engaging them in activities to make sure they are part of the community. So she uses Facebook to keep this campaign popular. Here's an example of a poster, which is a campaign that we may have asked our students to do before in class. One of the things that you will notice about the Be a Rooney campaign is she's engaging the community. She's asking us to do something for her, for the betterment of our community. This poster is doing the same thing. It asks the community of our hometown to join together to clean up a field that is covered in plastic bags. You can see the poster implies that the audience is the local community. It asks the audience to use a cloth bag whenever they go shopping, so they are no longer using plastic. And they ask them to come every Saturday for 1 month to help clean up the plastic that is already in the field. They tell us that they are the secondary school students of our hometown, and they tell us where at the bottom of the poster we can find more information on Facebook, or we can donate, we can sponsor and donate money on their account at GoFundMe.com. In the chat box, I would like you to answer the question, which of the social media sites that we just discussed would you use to do a social media campaign with the information on this poster? What are your thoughts? Facebook, okay, absolutely, yeah. Facebook is a great idea. I'm seeing some Instagram, I'm seeing some blogging, but a majority of people, okay, Twitter, WhatsApp. I guess you would create a group on WhatsApp. YouTube, absolutely. I think YouTube is a great idea. I personally would probably use Facebook, a blog, or YouTube for this. Pinterest, why not? You can show the story through photos, daily motion. Okay, very nice, very nice. Good responses. So let's put this project together. We've been receiving the background information, a little bit of notes. Let's go ahead and talk about meaningful projects that impact our community. The first thing I want to share with you that we're going to talk about in this section is we're going to talk about the steps of the project, and we're going to, secondly, complete a poster activity. This poster activity also happens to be the first activity that you can do with your students when working with students on social media campaigns, excuse me. So as a classroom activity, a social media campaign has language that they can use, grammar and vocabulary in action, and it's something that directly impacts them. It's also something that is generated by them. So it's to educate, inspire, and to help. Not to mention to create more of a community feeling. Steps of doing a project. So these are in general. And the first thing we have to identify as teachers is the purpose. Why are we doing this project? What grammar, what vocabulary, what skills would you like to practice? As well as what would you like the students outside of the typical English language learning skills, what would you like them to be gaining? Are they going to get the art of persuasive writing? Are they going to get an opportunity like we're doing today with social media campaigning? The next thing we want to look at is our audience. So who will the project be aimed at? Our audience today is our community. We want to engage not only the students, but the worldwide community. The time requirements. How long is this project going to take to complete? So in this, we're looking at how long do we have in class that we can set aside for this project. Most likely, because it's a project, it will take between 3 weeks and 3 months, depending on how detailed you get and how much time you have. Who will participate is the next thing we want to think about. It's our students, and hopefully the community will participate. The materials, what will we need to complete this project? We might need the internet. We might need a camera, computer, or a mobile phone, etc. What are all the things that we need to have together in order to do this? Connecting all the elements. This is making the exact plan of what we will do the day-to-day basis. Like on day 1, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Day 2, we're going to do A, B, and C, etc. As well as the assessment tools that you will be using. And I'll talk about both the assessment for the teacher side and students' own assessment of their project. During the project, this is all of the elements that take place while the project is taking part. You want to divide the project into parts, part 1, part 2, or part 3, so that the students are not overwhelmed and that you are not overwhelmed. Also, when you divide it, you can grade part 1, part 2, or part 3, so that it allows you to grade in sections, and it's more fair to the students because you grade section 1, section 2, section 3. They get a grade for example, they could get a grade for the written presentation of the concept or the poster, the written presentation of the evaluation results, how many people engaged with the students, how big is their community gotten, why do they think they got that big or didn't grow, descriptions on the posts, quality of the posts, etc. Evaluation. So this is your assessment, how you are grading the students, if you're using a rubric, what you're doing, and the students' reflection or their self-assessment of whether or not their campaign was successful and why. In this part, I want to explain a little bit about the poster before we create a poster ourselves. So at this point, I want you to take a pen and a piece of paper and get ready to make a poster in just a little while. If you don't have internet access, a basic project could be making a poster like the one we saw before, where you use a photo that is surprising to you, and it's a photo of something that you would like to positively change in your community. You then identify why whatever is present, for example, the plastic in this photo, why is this a problem? And how can you help the community to change? So for example, we can see here that there are toxins in plastics, and those are directly linked to cancer, birth defects, immune system problems, and childhood developmental issues. So we have a very strong why this is a problem. And so the next step would be preparing how you will help the community to change as a student. Okay, so are you ready to make a poster? We are going to pretend. Okay, each person make your own poster. Okay, if there's 30 people in your room, just everyone make your own poster, make your own brainstorm. We are going to pretend suddenly you are now students and you are doing a poster to propose a social media campaign. The first thing that we need to do is we need to brainstorm something that we would like to change in our community. I want you to take the piece of paper that you have and write down the different things you might change in your community. But not yet. When we start playing the music, that's when you can write this down. Second, I want you to choose one of the items you would like to change in your community and create a poster in English that includes guidelines. Katie, can we put up the 3 slides? So great, thank you. So here you will see the direction. So first you're brainstorming. Second, you're choosing one of the items you brainstormed, and then you're using these guidelines. You have to tell us, who are you trying to reach, your community? Who are you? How are you supporting your community? Why is this important? Why should people care about you and your product or cause? Or why should they care about what you're doing for your community? And then you have to identify which website would you use for your social media campaign. Are they going to use Facebook? Are you going to use a blog, Twitter, etc.? So your poster should contain all of these elements. And you can see on the side of your screen, we put up the poster that I created about plastic to give you an example of what your poster might look like. We're going to listen to the song Super Talent from American Rhythm CD, a free downloadable CD on americanenglish.state.gov. And during the song, you're going to brainstorm and you're going to do a rough draft of your poster. So, if all else fails and you suddenly go blank, you can dance to the music and have a dance party. Let's go ahead and listen to the song and write our brainstorm and our poster on the paper.
coming out automatic. Making sure they understand it's all part of the plan. You and I, we so valiant. We keep the world in balance with the gift of super talents. Tell everybody don't panic. Combine our powers, sit back, watch God handle it. Tell your friends if you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, then you can sing. If you can talk, cause everybody's born with the beautiful gift. Now that you know we got a beautiful thing, you better know it's something. It doesn't matter what they think, doesn't matter what they say. What only matters is the time that you give it every day. Little by little, baby steps get you moving day by day. Keep on improving, moving mountains in such a slightest way. Try to keep the possibilities open, always emotion, always seeking love. Cause where there's love, there is a pathway. Feel it with your heart, let your mind and so follow. Seek tomorrow, every day's a new day. So just try to say shit. Cause if you walk, you can dance. And if you walk, and if you talk, then you can sing. And if you talk, you can. Everybody's born with the beautiful gift. Now that you know it, got a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Boys and girls, allow me to introduce my gypsy twin brother, Mr. Gregory Brown.
Getting tired of seeing wasted potential building up into nothing, digging at you to your very know-how. Nothing more than a can of beans in this world. If you never finally follow your true passion, girl, it's your now. So why'd you give one for the giver? You deliver something for the children that'll whisper into your ear. You better notice that you're standing in the shadow. Would you look at all this light just shining out and bright and clear? Only up to you, cause only you can fully truly put your heart into it. If it is what you really wanna do, what you gotta do. Instead of trying to legitimately get the scoop. Evaluate your passion so you see it's better to fruits. Of your neighbor, go ahead and savor. Resist the law of resistance, now look at what's on the table. Your potential staring straight in your face. But amazingly, I'm saying it's delicious. Get you moving. You can walk, you can dance. If you can walk, you can talk, you can sing. If you can talk, you can. Everybody's born with a beautiful gift. Now that you know we got a beautiful thing. If you can walk, you can dance. If you can walk, you can talk, you can sing. If you can talk, you can. Everybody's born with a beautiful gift. Now that you know we got a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. You better know it's such a beautiful thing.
That is one of my favorite songs on the CD. Welcome back. Seems like many of you had some fantastic ideas about what you would like to do to help your community. Remember, you are working as a student. You are imagining you are a student. Next, as a student, you would choose a social media platform you would like to use. You would think, do I use Facebook? Do I use Instagram? Do I use Facebook and Instagram? Or whatever you think would communicate your message in the best possible way to engage the community in your city, your town, your school, and possibly the entire world. So there are 2 reasons that I asked you to do this poster activity we just completed. 1, by brainstorming some problems, you already have something to work with when you go to use this in your class with students. You have a list of all the problems that they themselves might come up with. 2, you now have experienced the beginning stages of the project. You can reflect on what worked and what didn't work, what would be okay for your students, or what you would have to change. So I want to remind us that in this stage, the poster stage, the students are creating this for the teacher to then say, this is a great idea. Okay, so go ahead and put this, start your social media campaign. Put this on social media. So let's go back to our PowerPoint view, and we will look a little more deeply at what it looks like when we put together this poster with the students. One of the things that is very important and part of the project includes student evaluation of their own effectiveness on or in their social media campaign. So how good are they at updating the community? How many people are participating, one of the ways that we can see that our campaign is successful, because we continue to get more and more people contributing, either by liking our Facebook page or they're actually showing up to help us pick up the plastic, if that was what our project was. The more the students have a social impact, the students will get excited because they see that it's working, and the activity becomes more and more engaging. This might also positively impact the community because everyone sees everyone is involved with this really cool project and they want to be involved too. So this is a wonderful place for our students to be because we're giving them the skills that they need to analyze and reflect on social media campaigns and make changes as to whether or not they feel that they are being successful. With the particular one I chose, another way that the students could assess their success is the number of bags of trash they picked up each week. The eventual goal would be they were picking up 0 bags of trash, and they would know if they were working towards the goal and achieving that goal. They could put a graph on Facebook and see the first week we picked up 50 bags of trash. The second week we picked up 30 bags of trash. That means we're having less trash. Yes, our program is working. So this is different than what the measure of success for teachers would be, right? So the teachers, we have to assess the students because this is a language class. So as I mentioned previously, we can grade it in phases or parts. We have part 1, part 2, part 3. They have descriptions of posts they can make. The social media plan you can grade. This would be the poster that you just did. A review or reflection of the project and their ability to make an impact is something that they can also grade. One thing that we should also do is have students grade themselves and the other members in their group, and that's part of their overall grade. So they would create, with your help and guidance, a rubric or some kind of criteria. For example, all students actively participated in the project, and they could say 1, not true, 5, very true. And so the students would choose, are they 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? So they would do this for themselves, and they would do this for the other students, and then they would explain why they gave themselves or the other students this grade. And as the teacher, you can use this information to help you to make the group work more fair, because the students, part of the student's overall grade could include this element of the grading. Before we go, I want to look at how this might appear in your class, because some of you might be thinking, well, this is great. I love the idea of a project. However, I don't have time because I have to do so much with the curriculum, et cetera, et cetera. So let's look at how we can fit a project into our work using no more than 10 or 15 minutes every day. Example, project day 1. You could show how to take good photos and then send the students out to take good photos, or at least to try to take good photos in the community. So basically, on our Ning discussion group, I have put a link to 2 videos that are a great resource and go through all of the elements that we need to know in order to take good photos. So that's day 1. The videos are no more than 7 minutes. And then they go and their homework is taking photos. How cool is that? Day 2, community photos. So all the students continue to take photos and work on their skills, but this time they're taking photos of people and areas that are important to them and that they feel a connection with in their community. Then they go home and they upload the photos either on Instagram or on Facebook and write descriptions of the photos that they're posting with the Community photos. What this would look like is the students are taking photos in their community of people, and places they never noticed before. The things that maybe they're seeing for the first time, because when they walk home, they're not, looking at everything. They're looking at what they're used to seeing. So again, students upload photos onto Instagram or Facebook, and they write observations and reflection and post with the photos. Project day 4, small group work. Now we're starting to get into the actual project itself. The students decide on one person. Okay, sorry. Let me go back to this and explain, because that slide might be a little confusing. So the students decide on one person that they are, or one place that they would like to focus on helping to change, right? So maybe they saw a lot of plastic. Maybe they saw a lot of potholes in the street and they want to have better roads. So they get together and they decide, okay, our social media campaign is what we are going to focus on. And then the next step is they create a poster. And they go through. And after they've created a poster, you can then ask them, if the poster is good, you can then have them create something on social media. They're doing Facebook, or they are on Twitter or Instagram, and they have started their social media campaign once you as the teacher have approved the poster. So, summing up, it's now time. What extra cool skills will projects like this allow you to teach in the classroom? What are your thoughts? Problem solving, fantastic. Speaking, descriptive skills, very good. Writing, critical thinking, reading, fantastic. Collaboration, I love it. Attention, very good. Empathy, motivation, these are fantastic. Analyzing, writing, critical thinking, again. Emotional intelligence, lovely. I love that one. Cooperation, okay. These are great skills. So we had these goals, if you remember from the beginning, our 21st century skills. We had flexibility, leadership, creative and critical thinking, entrepreneurship. What I'd love for you to do is I would like for you to think about how these projects and the social media campaign that we just explored develop each one of these skills. While you're thinking about this, I just want to share with you my thoughts on entrepreneurship, because you may be saying, hold on, Miss Eve, we did not address business opportunities. We're not selling anything. Actually, a social media campaign is selling a way of thinking or an idea. It's getting people excited about this idea and convincing them to spend their time engaging in more information about this idea. It may even convince them to contribute financially to what you are trying to do. This is marketing. Social media is practicing marketing skills. So let's see what else you have in your minds about how this project helped the students learn. Okay, great. So it helped them to learn technology skills. It engages them in a creative environment, developing social responsibility, thinking about problems in their society they have to solve. Persuasion, absolutely. Flexibility, discussing the possibilities and analyzing the best one, being willing to be wrong and correct again. Being tolerant, fantastic. So I think that we could say that this project pretty much allows us to do all of those 21st century skills that we wanted to do. We are coming to the end of our webinar. And I'd like to remind us that sharing is caring. One of the most amazing things about these webinars is that you are joining from all over the world. And I personally would love to see a slice of your life and your community. You never know if what you share is going to be an inspiration to others. So I'd love to have our Ning site and the discussion area of our Ning site